Amarillo, Texas, August 14th, 1956. In the dry heat of that afternoon, Elias Turner, a mechanic nearly forgotten by his own town, faced a problem no one had managed to beat, a bolt so old and stuck it seemed fused to the engine. 3 workshops had already given up. The truck's owner had lost all hope. But Elias tried an improbable move, a strange twist with an old wrench, and something happened there, something that would change his life forever. This is the story of a simple, tired, underestimated man who lived between debts, judgment, and worn-out machines. A man who had nothing but his calloused hands and a family betting what little they had on him. What Elias discovered that day wasn't luck nor miracle. It was the first step of a transformation no one predicted, and one he himself barely believed. A story of silent failures, small hidden victories, doors that open slowly, and how a single gesture can alter the path of an entire family. Without revealing what comes next, all I can say is this: Elias Turner thought he was just fixing an engine. In truth, he was repairing the entire course of his own life. But before we continue with the video, tell me which city you're watching from and what time it is over there. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The morning heat had not yet settled over Amarillo when Elias Turner stepped into the small, aging workshop on Polk Street. It was barely past 6. The sky a soft bluish gray, but already the wind carried thin sheets of dust across the ground. Dust that found its way into every crack, into the metal drawers, into the carburetors lined along the wall, into the folds of Elias's work shirt. Dust was the first thing he breathed every morning, and the last thing he tasted at night. He wiped his hands on his jeans, not because they were dirty but out of habit, and looked around the workshop. Empty, silent. Only the creaking sign above the entrance broke the quiet. Harlan's Auto and Fix It. Except nothing seemed to get fixed anymore. Elias's boss, Harlan Briggs, was a man with a face carved by sun and disappointment. The kind of man who had been mean for so long he'd forgotten how else to talk. And lately, that meanness had pointed itself more and more toward Elias. "Customers say you take too long," he had barked the day before. "Maybe you ain't cut out for this work, Turner." It wasn't the first time he'd heard it. But yesterday, it had felt different, heavier, as if the words had carried the weight of the whole town's opinion. Elias stood at his workstation now, staring at a small carburetor he'd been reassembling for nearly a week. It wasn't a hard job, but parts were scarce, clients were scarce, and faith, well, that was scarce too. He picked up the wrench lying on the table. The metal felt warm even in the cool morning, familiar, like a bone in his own hand. He'd been holding wrenches since he was a boy, repairing anything with screws or hinges because his father couldn't afford replacements. His father. The thought landed on him like a hot coal. A man built of grit and calluses. A man who never complained until the day his lungs gave out. And on that day, the day Amarillo felt colder than usual, Elias had sworn he'd lift the family's name out of the mud. But vows made in grief were easy. Vows kept through poverty were not. He set the wrench down, exhaling hard. Behind him, the workshop door flew open. Harlan stomped in, boots tracking dust across the concrete. "Turner," he grumbled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Got a situation." Elias turned slowly. "What kind?" "The kind I don't want to deal with, but gotta." Harlan tossed a set of keys onto the table. "Old man Greer says his Chevy is worse now than when he brought it to you." Elias felt his stomach fold in on itself. "Sir, I fixed the ignition coil like he asked." "Well, he don't think so." Harlan jabbed a finger toward the door. "He's outside right now and he wants to talk to you. Not me, you." Elias swallowed hard. Confrontations always felt like someone pressing a hot iron against his pride. He stepped outside. Mr. Greer stood next to his pickup, leaning on a cane, his cowboy hat tilted low. His eyes were sharp, the kind that could slice a man's confidence clean in half. "Morning, Mr. Greer," Elias said quietly. "Morning," the old man replied, though his tone held no warmth. He tapped the truck's hood. "This here ain't running right. Took it home yesterday and it coughed like a dying mule." Elias stepped closer. "I can take another look." "Maybe I didn't come here for another look." Greer's voice rose, high and brittle. "I came to tell you that this town ain't got space for mechanics who waste a man's time. If you can't fix a simple problem, you shouldn't be fixing nothing." The words hit Elias like a fist. Behind him, Harlan watched with folded arms, saying nothing, listening, judging. Elias's throat felt dry. "Sir, I didn't mean—" "That's the point," Greer snapped. "You never mean anything. You're just slow, always been slow. Folks say it. I'm saying it now. A couple passing by slowed their steps. Someone across the street looked over. Humiliation spread through Elias's chest like fire. I'll refund your service, Elias said softly. All of it. Greer spat on the ground. Refund? Son, I want reliability, not pocket change. He climbed back into his truck, slammed the door, and peeled off, dust exploding behind the tires. Harlan looked at Elias and shook his head. That's on you. Elias watched the truck disappear, a tightness spreading across his shoulders. He could feel the town closing in on him, shrinking his worth to the shape of a mistake. Back inside, Harlan lectured him for nearly 10 minutes, pacing up and down the workshop. Every sentence felt like someone pressing another brick onto Elias's chest. Finally, Harlan grumbled, "You got 1 week, Turner. 1 week. If customers keep complaining, that's it." Elias didn't ask what "that's it" meant. He already knew. The day dragged like a wounded animal. Small jobs came in, a tire patch, an oil change, but nothing that paid real bills. And every time someone walked through the door, they looked at Elias with the same doubtful expression, the same question in their eyes. Is he the one who messed up Greer's truck? By late afternoon, the sun hung low, scorching the workshop roof, making the air vibrate. Elias stepped outside to breathe, leaning against a wooden post. His shirt was drenched, his back ached, his hands trembled just a little, the tremble of a man holding in too many words. Across the street, a group of teenagers laughed loudly as they passed by, one of them pointing. "That's the guy old Greer yelled at!" another shouted. Heat crawled up Elias's neck. He walked home with slow, heavy steps. Dust puffed up with every footfall. The houses along the road were small, tired, not much different from his own. Life in Amarillo wasn't cruel on purpose. It was just indifferent, and indifferent things wore a man down, slowly. When he reached his house, he hesitated before opening the door. Inside, his wife Clara was folding laundry, clothes worn thin from too many washings. Their daughter, Lily, sat at the table drawing shapes on scrap paper, humming softly. Clara looked up with gentle eyes. Long day. Elias swallowed tight. Long enough. She studied him, reading the tension in his shoulders, the sadness he tried to hide. Clara always knew. She always saw. "Come eat," she said. "I saved you some." He sat at the table. A plate of beans and cornbread waited for him. Simple food, survival food. He took a bite. The cornbread crumbled in his mouth, dry but familiar. Lily looked up at him with big eyes. "Daddy, did you fix any cars today?" Her innocence cracked something inside him. "Some," he whispered. "Not enough." Clara touched his hand lightly, a gesture of comfort, not pity. "We'll manage," she said. But Elias felt the truth sinking into him. They weren't managing, not really. Bills lay on the counter behind her, 3 of them, overdue. After dinner, Elias stepped outside again. The sky had turned orange, then pink, then finally a deep velvet blue. Cicadas buzzed in the dark. The wind softened. He stood there a long time, hands in pockets, staring at nothing. Then, as if pulled by an invisible thread, he began walking, slowly, quietly, back toward the workshop. He didn't know why. Maybe he wanted to avoid sleep. Maybe he wanted to avoid dreams that reminded him of better years. Maybe he just didn't want Clara to see the shame on his face. When he reached the workshop, the street was empty. The sign creaked in the wind like an old warning. He slipped inside. The single overhead lamp flickered, bathing the room in a pale yellow glow. Tools sat where he'd left them. Machines loomed like tired beasts. He exhaled. Something in the silence pressured him, an urge to do, not to think. He reached for the carburetor he'd been working on earlier, held it in both hands, turned it slowly, as though searching for meaning in the metal. Then he grabbed the wrench, the same wrench he'd held thousands of times, the same wrench that had slipped, bruised, cut, and shaped his hands. He placed it at an odd angle, too odd, ridiculously odd. No manual would approve, no mechanic would attempt it. It was the move of a desperate man, a man trying not to drown. He pushed, the metal groaned, squealed, then turned. A breath escaped his chest, a sharp, startled breath. He hadn't expected success, he'd only expected distraction, but the piece moved perfectly, smooth, controlled. He tried again, adjusting the grip, refining the angle. It worked, again and again. He stared at the wrench as though seeing it for the first time. His heart thumped in quiet disbelief. This wasn't luck. It wasn't chance. It was a method nobody had ever shown him, a method nobody in Amarillo used, a method born from necessity and from the kind of hunger no one talked about. He set the tool down, chest rising and falling. In that dim, dusty room, among shadows and rust, something unexplainable had shifted, not in the metal, but in him. Elias Turner didn't know it yet, but that ridiculous angle, that foolish twist of a wrench, would echo far beyond this lonely night.
It would become the blueprint of a fortune, the spark of an empire, the turning of a destiny that had been rusted shut for far too long. He closed his eye, and the chapter ended, not with triumph, but with the faint, trembling realization that maybe, just maybe, the world had been wrong about it. The morning after Mr. Greer's outburst begins with a heaviness that settles over Amarillo like low smoke.
The sun is barely up, yet the town already carries a new rumor, one with Elias Turner's name tangled in it like a curse. Whispers drift across Polk Street, through diners, across porches, from men leaning against their trucks before work. People talk softly, but the words travel loudly. Turner messed up Greer's Chevy. He's slow. He ain't as sharp as he used to be. That shop's falling apart because of him. Elias arrives at Harlan's auto and fix it, trying to pretend he can't hear it. But he feels the weight of every stare, every pause in conversation. Even in the shop, customers glance past him, asking for Marty instead, the younger mechanic with a quick grin and none of Elias's recent scars. Harlan notices, and he's losing patience. 3 customers this morning, he tells Elias bluntly. All asked for someone else. He doesn't have to say why. Elias tries to work anyway, cleaning parts, tightening bolts, checking wires, but today his movements lack the quiet confidence he once had. His hands still know what to do, but his spirit feels cracked. Every mistake feels fatal. Every sound feels accusatory. A delivery driver shows up to drop off a part. He takes one look at Elias and says, without cruelty but with painful honesty, "Ain't you the guy who messed up Greer's truck?" It's a simple question, but it lands like a punch. Humiliation spreads deeper. During the afternoon rush, a woman brings in her broken belt fan. Her eyes skim over Elias and quickly withdraw, as if she's afraid to trust him. "Is Marty here?" she asks. Not, "Can you help me?" Not, "Is someone available?" Just, "Not you." That small rejection cuts sharper than Greer's shouting. The shame grows so thick that Elias escapes to the back room, the darkest corner of the workshop. He sits on an old crate, elbows on his knees, eyes closed. In the dimness, memories rise uninvited. He remembers being a boy on his family's tiny farm. The barn smelled of hay and dust. His father knelt beside him, guiding his small hands to repair a broken wagon wheel. Elias had given up, frustrated, near tears. His father smiled softly and said, "Son, sometimes the thing that looks impossible ain't impossible at all. You're just looking at it wrong." Young Elias had believed him, but grown Elias now wonders if his father had simply been wrong. By the time the sun sets, he's exhausted, not from work, but from emotion, from constant judgment, from being the weakest link in a shop that used to rely on him. He walks home under a fading orange sky, boots dragging. 2 men outside a diner whisper as he passes. "That's him," one mutters. "Turner, slippin'. Heard he messed up big." Elias doesn't look back. He doesn't need to. Shame knows how to follow. When he reaches home, Clara waits on the porch. Her eyes scan his face, reading what the day carved into him. Inside, she warms his dinner, touches his hand, tries to soothe the storm she can't see but feels. He attempts to smile at Lily, his daughter, who colors beside him at the table. She asks, "Daddy, did you fix lots of cars today?" He can't answer without lying. He mumbles something vague. Clara sees through it instantly. Later, she confronts him gently. "You look like the world's beating you down." He finally cracks. "What if I'm not good enough, Clara? What if they're right?" His voice shakes. "I'm failing you. I'm failing her. I'm failing everything." Clara takes his hand firmly. "No," she says. "You're tired. You're hurting. But you are not a failure." Her words are warm, but they don't erase the bruises left by the day. When the house goes quiet, when Clara and Lily sleep, Elias sits alone at the window. Moonlight spills across the floor. He watches it, feeling like a ghost inside his own life. Eventually, he stands, driven by something he cannot name. He leaves the house, walks the empty roads, past the diner, past gas pumps that flicker under failing bulbs, past all the places where he heard whispers. He walks until his feet bring him, without thought, back to the workshop. The building is dark. The wind nudges the creaking sign. He unlocks the door. Inside, a single lamp burns in the back. The same lamp that lit his failure earlier now lights something else, a quiet challenge. There, half hidden in shadow, sits the stubborn machine he failed to fix days before. The machine that resisted him, the machine that embarrassed him. He stops, breath unsteady, heart tight. He came here to escape his thoughts, but the machine seems to call him back into them. It sits like a final test, a line in the sand, a dare, a whisper, try again. And for reasons he can't explain, Elias steps toward it. The chapter ends with him standing alone in that dim shop, a man crushed by humiliation, drained of hope, yet unable to walk away from the one thing that might still save him. The workshop was silent in a way that felt almost sacred, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Outside, Amarillo rested under a cold blanket of moonlight, the wind pushing dust across the empty street like ghosts drifting without purpose. Inside, that same dust shimmered faintly in the beam of the lone hanging lamp, a pale, trembling circle of light in a room built on rust, sweat, and long-forgotten dreams. Elias Turner stood barely inside the doorway, still unsure why he'd come back. His boots felt rooted to the floor. His hands hung at his sides, loose but tired. The weight of the day pressed against him from all directions. The humiliation, the whispers, the failure he kept replaying until it stung like a fresh wound. He felt like a man walking inside his own shadow, smaller than he'd ever imagined himself becoming. But the workshop was the one place that had never lied to him. It had broken him plenty of times, but it never lied. Engines didn't pretend. Metal didn't judge. Bolts didn't whisper behind your back. Machines only told the truth. And tonight, the truth was sitting right in front of him. The same stubborn engine block he'd tried to fix days before. The one that refused to yield. The one that made him question whether he still had any real skill left inside him. It sat half disassembled beneath the flickering lamp. A hunk of steel, cold, silent, daring him. Elias walked toward it slowly, each step tapping lightly against the concrete floor. The closer he got, the more he felt the knot in his chest tighten. He wasn't ready for another failure, but he also wasn't ready to walk away. Something about this machine, this particular one, felt different, like it carried the last thread of his dignity. He reached the table and placed both hands on the metal. The coldness seeped into his palms, grounding him. Familiar, real. He exhaled shakily. "All right," he whispered to no one. "Let's try this again." He picked up the wrench, the same old, scraped, uneven wrench he'd used for years. The same wrench that had slipped 100 times. A tool with scars matching his. He set it against the rusted bolt. The metal resisted immediately, stubborn as a mule. Elias gritted his teeth and leaned in. The bolt didn't budge. He tried another angle. Nothing. A third. Nothing. His breath grew tight. His shoulders slumped. The memories of the day pressed in again like a wave. Greer shouting. Harlan criticizing. The delivery driver's question. People choosing Marty. Clara trying to hold him together while he was falling apart inside. His hand trembled. He closed his eyes. "What am I doing?" he whispered. "What am I even trying to prove?" For a moment, a full suffocating moment, he considered walking away, leaving the wrench there, letting the machine win, letting the world be right about him. But then something stirred, a memory, soft but sharp, rising from deep inside. His father's voice, low, warm, certain. "Sometimes the thing that feels impossible ain't impossible at all. You're just looking at it wrong." Elias opened his eyes slowly. He stared at the bolt again, not with frustration now, but with a strange, quiet curiosity. "Looking at it wrong," he murmured. He loosened his grip, shifted the wrench. Not in a standard angle, not in any angle another mechanic would ever use. It felt wrong, ridiculous, embarrassing even. But something in his bones, something old and instinctive, told him to try anyway. He braced the wrench, exhaled, twisted. The bolt groaned. He froze, twisted again, harder. The metal shrieked, a long, rusty cry, and then snap. The bolt turned, clean, smooth, beautiful. Elias jerked back slightly, shocked. His breath caught in his throat. He stared at the wrench in his hand as if it had performed magic. No, not magic. Instinct. Necessity. A lifetime of struggle forming an angle no textbook would teach. Heart thudding. Elias repositioned the wrench on another bolt. Same strange angle. Same quiet prayers inside his chest. He twisted. Again, the bolt moved. A laugh escaped him. Quick, breathless, almost disbelieving. Not joy. Relief. A relief so deep it felt like the first real breath he'd taken all day. He stepped back, staring at the machine, then at his own hands. "What did I just do?" he whispered. He didn't have the answer, but he knew this. No one else in that shop could have done it this way. Not Marty, not Harlan, not any mechanic in Amarillo. This technique, this odd, wrong angle, was his, only his, and it worked. He leaned against the table, hands shaking, not from exhaustion now, but from the quiet realization that maybe he wasn't the lost cause everyone thought he was. Maybe, just maybe, he still had one more fight left in him. Then he heard it, a sound in the workshop, a sound that didn't belong. A creak, soft, slow, coming from the front door. Elias straightened instantly. His pulse quickened. Someone else was here. The workshop door creaked again, and Elias froze. His pulse hammered. For a second, he thought it was Harlan coming to catch him after hours. "Who's there?" he called. No answer. Then a familiar silhouette stepped into the dim light. "It's just me, Elias," Clara whispered. Relief washed over him as she closed the door softly. She looked tired, wrapped in her shawl, the worry on her face deeper than any shadow in the room. "I woke up and you weren't home," she said. Lily thought, maybe you left. Those words struck him harder than Greer's shouting. "I'd never leave," Elias said quietly. Clara stepped closer, her eyes falling on the half-disassembled engine. "So, this is where you came to break your heart in peace?" He tried to smile, but the truth weighed too much. "I was trying something." She picked up the wrench, examined the engine, then looked at him with soft disbelief. "Did you loosen these bolts? All of them?" "With that," Elias said, pointing at the tool. "With a stupid angle that shouldn't work." Clara moved beside him. "Show me." He repeated the motion, the crooked, instinctive angle, and the bolt loosened again, smooth as if the machine suddenly respected him. Clara's breath caught. "Elias, that's not normal. That's something different." Elias shook his head. "It's nothing. Just luck." "No," she said firmly. "Luck doesn't happen after a day like you had. This came from you." She touched his shoulder. "You've always seen things other men don't. You've always fixed things in your own way." He wanted to argue, but the evidence was right in front of him, in the loosened bolts, in the way Clara looked at him like he wasn't a broken man, but someone on the edge of discovering something real. "What if I'm wrong?" he whispered. Clara gave a small smile. "What if you're right?" Her words hung in the dusty air, soft, warm, dangerous. And for the first time that night, Elias felt the faint spark of something that had been missing for a long time, a reason to keep going. Clara's words hung in the air long after they stopped echoing. Elias stood beside the engine, fingers lightly gripping the wrench, feeling the strange gravity of the moment. Not triumph, not yet, but the quiet, trembling sense that something inside him had shifted. Clara watched him closely. "Elias, this could be the beginning of something, not just fixing engines. Something bigger." He shook his head. "I don't even know what I did. You figured out a way nobody else thought of," she said. "A way that came from your struggle, not in spite of it." Elias looked down at his hands scarred, tired, worn from years of being underestimated. Tonight, they looked different, steadier, more certain. Outside, the wind rattled the workshop sign, the metal clanging softly like a distant bell. In the silence that followed, Elias felt an old part of himself stirring, the part that once believed he could lift his family out of the life they were stuck in. Clara stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You don't have to have all the answers tonight. Just don't give up now. Not after this." He nodded slowly. She reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "Come home, Elias. Rest. Tomorrow, you try again." They walked to the door together. Elias paused for one last look at the engine, the stubborn machine that had nearly broken him, and the same machine that had revealed a spark of something new, a technique no one taught him, a method no one expected, a moment that felt like fate whispering through steel. He shut off the lamp. The workshop fell into darkness. But Elias didn't feel as lost as before. The night outside was still cold, still dusty, still unforgiving, but something about it felt different. As they stepped into the moonlight, Clara slipped her arm through his. "Whatever that was," she murmured, "it wasn't the end." Elias looked back one last time. "Maybe," he whispered, "it was the beginning." And with that, the man who almost gave up walked home, unaware that tonight's strange, impossible angle would become the first step toward an empire no one in Amarillo could ever imagine. The next morning, Amarillo woke slowly, the way small towns do, with sunlight creeping over the flat horizon, slipping through dusty windows, and settling on streets that never changed much from one day to the next. But inside Elias Turner's home, something had changed. Subtle, fragile, almost too quiet to notice. He woke before the alarm, staring at the ceiling, unsure if the strange spark from the night before had been real, or just exhaustion playing tricks on him. Clara slept beside him, breathing softly. Her words echoed in his mind. Maybe it's something bigger. He didn't know what bigger meant. He barely believed he deserved better, let alone bigger. But the memory of the bolts turning, that unnatural ease, that improbable angle, replayed in his mind like a scene he couldn't forget. When he stepped into the kitchen, Clara was already pouring coffee. The smell drifted through the small room. Weak coffee, but warm. She handed him a cup without a word. Her eyes said enough. "Try again today," she murmured. He nodded. Outside, the morning air felt cool against his face as he walked toward the shop. The streets carried the same familiar blend of dust and diesel. Pickup engines rumbled awake. Someone hammered something 2 houses down. Amarillo beginning another day. But something in Elias's stride was different. His steps were still heavy, but no longer dragging. There was a quiet urgency to them, like a man walking toward a fight he wasn't ready to win, but wasn't willing to lose. When he entered the workshop, the bell over the door jingled with its usual tired sound. Marty glanced up from a truck hood. "Well, look who's early," Marty said. "Didn't think you'd show before sunrise." Elias ignored the jab. He hung his coat and walked straight to the back, where the stubborn engine block sat waiting. The bolts he'd loosened last night still felt like a miracle. Harlan was in the office, flipping through papers with irritation written across his face. "Turner," he barked. "Got a truck outside, needs a new water pump. Don't take all day." Elias nodded, though the sting of the word still landed. He didn't go to the water pump. Not yet. He picked up the wrench again, the same wrench, the same cold metal, the same worn handle, and positioned it against another bolt on the engine block, this time one he hadn't touched last night. His heart beat faster. Clara's voice echoed in his head. "Show me." His father's voice whispered beneath it. "Look again, boy. Look from another angle." Elias exhaled, shifted the wrench, tilted it in that odd, improbable angle. A move that looked like a mistake, like a man who didn't know what he was doing. He twisted. The metal groaned, long and low. Then, click, movement, resistance giving way. Not chance, not luck, a pattern, a method. It was real. He stepped back, staring again at the tool in his hand. The truth hit him hard enough to make him dizzy. He'd discovered something that worked every time he tried it, something no one else seemed to understand, something entirely his. He wasn't sure what to call it, a technique, a trick, a miracle born from desperation. But whatever it was, it had opened a door inside him that had been locked for years. He heard footsteps behind him. Marty. "What are you doing back here?" Marty asked, wiping grease from his hands. He leaned close, peering at the engine. "Hold on. Did you loosen that? That thing's been stuck for months." Elias stiffened. "Yeah, I got it loose." "With what?" "This." He held up the wrench. Marty frowned. "No way. That bolt's welded with rust." Elias shook his head. "Not anymore." Marty reached in and twisted it. It moved effortlessly. His eyebrows shot up. "How the hell did you—" "Don't worry about it," Elias said quickly, uncomfortable with the attention. But Marty didn't let it go. "You've been working on that thing for days, Turner. What changed?" Elias hesitated. What changed? Everything. Nothing. A lifetime of failure that taught his hands something his mind had never realized. "I tried something new," he said simply. Marty snorted. "Well, it worked. I'll give you that." He walked away, but the curiosity lingered in his expression. Later that morning, the workshop filled with more people than usual. Not customers, but curious onlookers. A couple of men stood outside the open garage door, talking among themselves. Elias caught snippets as he worked on the water pump Harlan assigned him. "Greer was yelling about him yesterday, but I heard Turner loosen that old block in the back." "You serious? That thing's been stuck since last summer. Nobody could move it." Harlan caught wind of the talk. He lumbered toward Elias. "What's this nonsense I'm hearing about you and that engine? Marty says you loosened half the damn block this morning." Elias shrugged. "I did." "How?" "I just found a better angle." Harlan scoffed. "Angle? Turner, that block's eaten 3 mechanics alive. Don't joke about it. Go look," Elias said quietly. Harlan did. 20 seconds later, a loud, startled whistle came from the back of the shop. When he returned, he stared at Elias with a mixture of irritation and disbelief. "You loosened 4 of those bolts?" "5, Elias corrected softly. Harlan blinked, just blinked. For the first time in years, he didn't have a ready insult. But then, true to his nature, he covered his confusion with gruffness. "Well," he muttered, "as long as you can do that on customer cars, maybe you'll be worth the paycheck I'm giving you." He walked off. Elias didn't expect praise from Harlan, but he hadn't expected recognition either. It felt strange, alien, dangerous, because recognition meant expectation, and expectation meant he could disappoint people again. Around noon, a familiar voice called from the doorway. "Turner!" Elias looked up. It was a local rancher named Bill Harper. Rough hands, sunburned neck, big heart. He walked into the shop holding a busted gearbox wrapped in cloth. "Someone told me you're the man to see about stuck bolts." Elias froze. The words hit him like a punch of sunlight. "Who told you that?" he asked. "Some guy outside the feed store," Bill said. "Said you figured out a way to open things that have been stuck for years." He placed the heavy part on the counter. "This thing's been locked up tighter than a preacher's pocketbook. Think you can take a look?" Elias swallowed hard, not with fear, with something like quiet pride. "I can try," he said. The rancher leaned against the counter. Heard yesterday was rough for you. Folks talk too much in this town. Ignore 'em. Elias nodded. He took the gearbox to the back. The bolt was rusted deep, fused through years of neglect. The kind that normally required heat, force, or cursing loud enough to scare birds out of trees. He placed the wrench on it, shifted the angle, twisted, click. The bolt obeyed him like a trained animal. He heard Bill laugh loudly from the front. "Well, I'll be damned." Marty came running. Harlan peeked from the office. Word spread quickly after that. By late afternoon, 2 more men stopped by, one with a tractor part, another with a corroded joint from an old Ford. "Someone said Turner can get anything loose. Heard you got a trick, son. Mind taking a look?" Elias's heartbeat quickened. His palms grew sweaty. He wasn't used to people coming to him, not with trust, not with admiration. But he took each piece, one by one, and used his technique until the metal yielded. Each successful twist felt like reclaiming a part of himself. But with every success, a new tension formed inside him, a fear that he couldn't ignore. What happens when the trick doesn't work? What happens when he fails in front of everyone again? Clara passed by the shop at sunset, bringing him a sandwich wrapped in paper. She watched from outside as 3 men waited in line holding rusted parts, talking among themselves. Her eyes softened. Elias stepped out for a moment, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Looks like you've got a crowd," she teased gently. "I don't know how long this will last," he admitted. Clara shook her head. "Don't kill the blessing by fearing it. Let it grow. One day at a time. One day at a time." Maybe that was all he could handle. As evening settled, the shop quieted. Harlan locked the front. Marty drove home. The ranchers returned to their trucks. The sky burned orange and purple over Amarillo, then sank into deep blue. Elias stayed behind to clean the tools. For the first time in years, he felt something warm in his chest. Not pride exactly, but a spark of possibility. People were starting to talk, but for once, the talk wasn't about his failures. He was becoming someone again. Maybe not a hero, not yet, but a man whose hands held something new, something needed. When he finished cleaning, he stepped outside. The wind brushed past him, carrying dust and the faint sound of a train in the distance. He looked back at the workshop. Tomorrow would be different. He could feel it. But before the night ended, a thought struck him, one that made his pulse spike with a mixture of excitement and fear. What if this trick wasn't just a trick? What if it could be more? A tool, a design, an invention? The thought scared him, but it wouldn't let him go. Not tonight, not anymore. And as Elias Turner walked home under the quiet Texas stars, he had no idea that this tiny spark, born from desperation, was about to set fire to the entire path ahead. Morning came with a quiet warmth that spread slowly across Amarillo, turning the dust on the streets into a soft golden haze. For once, Elias Turner didn't wake with dread crawling up his spine. Instead, he woke with a strange mix of nerves and anticipation, like a man who had seen the faintest glow of a sunrise and wasn't sure whether to trust it. As he stepped outside, the crisp Texas air met him with its usual blend of dust and the faint scent of cattle from the outskirts of town. But today, Amos Garcia, the neighbor 2 houses down, lifted a hand in a casual greeting. Amos never greeted him. Elias blinked. "Morning," he said, unsure if the man actually meant it. Amos nodded toward the street. "Heard you got some magic with rusted parts," he chuckled. "About time someone did. My tractor's got bolts older than my daddy's boots." Elias froze for a half second. He managed a shy, "I'll take a look sometime." "Good," Amos said. "Folks around here need someone who knows what they're doing." The words echoed in Elias's head as he walked toward the shop. Someone who knows what they're doing. He hadn't heard that about himself in years. But as he reached Polk Street, another reality hit him hard. The workshop was busier than usual. A small cluster of men stood outside the garage door, talking, laughing, waiting for him. Inside, Marty shot him a look that mixed disbelief with a hint of jealousy. "What did you do, Turner?" Marty asked. "Grow wings overnight? Just fix some bolts," Elias said. "Yeah, well, half the county wants you to fix theirs now." Before he could respond, Harlan stomped out of the office. "Turner, get over here." Elias tensed. Old habits died hard, but the look on Harlan's face wasn't angry. It was something Elias wasn't used to seeing on him. Calculation. "What are you doing to those bolts?" Harlan asked. "They're loosening like they ain't rusted at all." Elias felt exposed, vulnerable, just a different angle. "What angle?" He swallowed. "Hard to explain." Harlan narrowed his eyes. "Don't keep secrets in my shop, Turner." "It's not a secret," Elias said quietly. "It's just something that works." Harlan huffed but didn't push the issue. Instead, He jerked a thumb toward the waiting men outside. Well, go handle them before they think this place is a museum. As the first customer stepped in, the rancher from the day before, Elias felt something he hadn't felt in years. People looking at him not with judgment, but with expectation. Respectful expectation. Bill Harper set another gear assembly on the table. "Morning, Turner. Thought I'd bring you a harder one today." "Harder?" Elias asked. Bill nodded. "This thing's been locked up since the Eisenhower election." Elias took a breath. He didn't want to fail. Not today. Not in front of these men. He held the wrench, felt its weight, its shape, its familiarity. He positioned it in that strange, instinctive angle, the one born of desperation and exhaustion. He twisted. Click. Bill let out a whistle. "Boy, if I didn't see that myself, I'd call you a liar." Another man stepped forward. "Think you can look at mine next?" Then another, and another. The workshop buzzed like it hadn't in years. Marty watched from a distance, trying to mask his frustration. Harlan tried to act like none of this impressed him, but Elias caught him watching with narrowed, curious eyes. By midday, Elias's hands were sore, his back tight, but the pile of successfully loosened parts grew higher. Yet with every bolt he cracked open, a new anxiety tugged inside him. What if one day it didn't work? What if this technique only succeeded because of some element he hadn't noticed? Some angle he couldn't reproduce? Some fluke? He pushed the thought down. Around lunchtime, a black Ford rolled up to the shop. It was cleaner, shinier, and newer than the usual Amarillo vehicles, the kind of car driven by men with money, men who didn't fix their own problems. A tall man in a brown suit stepped out, hat tilted low, polished shoes completely out of place in the dirt. He walked straight toward Elias. "You Turner?" he asked. Elias wiped his hands on his rag. "Yes, sir. Name's Raymond Fielder." He extended a hand, something people in town rarely did. "I run the freight depot off Route 87. Elias hesitated, then shook his hand. "I heard about what you did for Bill here," Fielder said, nodding toward the rancher. "And I've got something that needs a man with a creative touch." Bill laughed from the corner. "Creative is one way to put it." Fielder placed a heavy metal coupler on the table. "This came off one of our rail carts. None of my mechanics could get it open. Took 3 men and a torch just to pry the housing apart." Elias studied it. The bolt inside was practically fused by time, heat, and God knows what else. "Think you can get it?" Fielder asked. Elias swallowed. He didn't know. He didn't want to embarrass himself in front of the richest man he'd ever spoken to, but he couldn't back away. "Not now. I'll try," he said. He positioned the wrench, shifted, adjusted, tilted. That strange angle again. The one other mechanics thought was madness. He twisted. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then, crack! The bolt gave way. Smooth, clean, as if it had been waiting for Elias all along. Fielder blinked, stunned. "How in God's name did you do that?" Elias stepped back. "Just found the right angle." "That's no angle I've ever seen," Fielder murmured. He lifted the coupler, inspecting it as if he couldn't believe his own eyes. "You just saved me $200 in labor." He paused. "You do side work, Turner?" Elias hesitated. He looked at Harlan. The boss pretended not to hear. "I could," Elias said. Fielder nodded slowly, as if confirming something inside his mind. "Good. I'll bring more parts by next week. And Turner?" "Yes, sir. You keep doing what you're doing, and you won't be working for a man like Briggs much longer." Elias's breath caught. He watched the man leave, dust swirling around his polished shoes. It was the first door, the first real door, but it terrified him. The rest of the afternoon moved in fast waves. More men came. More parts loosened. Even Marty grudgingly asked Elias to help with a stubborn lug nut on a customer's truck. But the moment that truly struck him happened near closing time. A young mechanic from the next town over, someone Elias didn't know, stepped inside, holding a small notebook and a metal part. "You the Turner everyone's talking about?" he asked. Elias blinked. "Talking about?" "Yeah," the young man said. "Word is you figured out a new way to break seized bolts. Thought maybe you'd show me." Elias froze. "Teach him? Explain something he didn't even fully understand?" He shook his head. "I don't think I can teach it." The young mechanic frowned. "Why not?" Before Elias could answer, Harlan barked from his office. "Because Turner don't have time for nonsense. That's why." The young man flinched. Elias lowered his eyes. The mechanic left the shop without another word. Clara arrived just as Elias stepped outside into the fading light. Her dress fluttered in the warm wind as she approached him with that steady presence he always relied on. "You did good today," she said softly. "People came," Elias said. His voice trembled with equal parts pride and fear. "A lot of people. I saw. I don't know what it means." Clara smiled gently. "It means the door opened." Elias looked at the ground. "What if I'm not ready to walk through it?" Clara took his hand. "Then you take one step. That's all a man can ever do. They walked home together, the sky above them painted in streaks of orange and violet. But Elias kept glancing back at the workshop, at the dusty windows reflecting the last light of day. It felt like the whole building was watching him, waiting for him. When they reached the porch, Clara squeezed his hand one last time. "Something's changing, Elias. Don't let fear decide where you go." He didn't answer, because fear was deciding. Fear of failing again, fear of disappointing everyone, fear of this gift disappearing as suddenly as it came. But there was something else inside him too now, something small, something quiet, something stubborn, hope. And that hope grew stronger when he noticed a slip of paper tucked into his pocket. He didn't remember putting it there. He unfolded it. Raymond Fielder's card. On the back, scribbled in pencil, "Come see me. Opportunity." Elias stared at the word, opportunity. His hand shook. Every great change in a man's life begins with a small, almost invisible push. Today, Elias Turner felt that push, and tomorrow he would have to decide whether to keep walking or step fully through the door he never expected. The next morning, Elias walked into the workshop feeling something he hadn't felt in years, a quiet, trembling hope. Word about his miracle angle had spread fast, too fast. Before he even set his coat down, 2 men were already waiting at the door with rusted parts in their hands. "Turner, think you can loosen this?" one asked. "Yeah, they say you're the guy who fixes the impossible," said the other. Elias's stomach knotted. Expectations scared him more than humiliation ever had. Still, he took the parts to his bench. Wrench, angle, twist, click. One after another, bolts that had been frozen for years surrendered to his hands. The men watched in stunned silence. "Damn," one whispered. "He really can do it." Behind them, Marty watched with jealousy, and Harlan watched with suspicion. "Turner," Harlan snapped later, "what are you doing back there? Folks say you learned magic." "It's just a method," Elias answered. "Well, whatever it is, don't let it distract you, and don't you dare think you're better than this shop." Elias didn't argue, but deep down, he felt something shifting, a door cracking open. Near noon, the door opened again. This time, a man in a brown suit walked in, Raymond Fielder, the owner of the freight depot. "Turner," he said, "you saved me a week of labor with that coupler. I've got a proposition." Outside, by his shiny Ford, Fielder lowered his voice. "I want to bring you parts regularly, $20 per piece." Elias froze. $20 for one bolt, for one job, more than he made in a day. "But Harlan isn't responsible for your future," Fielder interrupted. "You are." Elias didn't say yes, but he didn't say no. When he returned inside, Harlan's face was red. What did he want? "Just side work," Elias said. Harlan stepped close. "Listen, Turner, don't get any ideas about leaving. You're not going anywhere. Understand?" Elias nodded, but something inside him cracked, the part of him that believed he belonged here forever. Over the next days, more men came. Farmers, ranchers, mechanics from other towns. They brought rusted machinery, broken joints, frozen bolts, and Elias loosened everyone. Wrench, angle, twist, click. With each success, more eyes turned toward him, more whispers spread, and more pressure grew. One afternoon, when a bolt refused to move, Elias felt panic rise. A small crowd watched, waiting for the miracle. After several tries, sweat dripping down his back, he shifted the wrench just a little further. Crack! The bolt surrendered. The crowd whistled. Marty scowled. Harlan pretended not to watch, and Elias felt both relief and fear. How long could he keep living up to this? That night, he sat on the porch, staring into the dark. "Clara," he whispered, "people expect things from me. Big things. I'm scared I'll fail." She took his hand. "Elias, you earned every bit of this. Fear doesn't mean you're not ready. It means you're human." He swallowed hard. "What if one day I need my own place? My own shop?" Clara didn't hesitate. "I've been waiting for you to say that," she murmured. Elias looked out at the quiet street. The world around him hadn't changed, but he had. And deep inside, the first piece of a new dream began to gather weight. A dream bigger than one man, but a dream whose time had finally come. The morning after Elias tightened that bolt with the unfamiliar wrench, Amarillo felt different. The sky looked fuller, the air warmer, the streets somehow lighter beneath his boots. It was the kind of day that didn't announce change, but carried it quietly, like a seed already planted beneath the soil. Word about Elias's gift spread faster than dust on a summer road. People no longer arrived at the shop curious. They arrived confident. "Turner'll fix it. If he can't, no one can. Where's that fella who sees angles no one else sees?" Even Fielder came back, this time with a truck bed full of broken iron, machinery from the freight yard stacked like a challenge. "Turner," he said, "you ready to make this official?" Elias stared at the parts. gears twisted from age, bolts fused by rust older than he was. He should have felt fear. Instead, he felt calm. "Let's see what I can do," he said. Piece after piece yielded to his hands. Wrench, angle, twist, always the same quiet magic. Fielder watched in awe. "You ever thought of making your own tool?" he asked. Something shaped the way you see it. The question rooted itself inside Elias like a spark hitting dry wood. His own tool, his own design. A wrench carved from instinct, not tradition. A tool that could help any man break stuck metal, not just him. That night, after the shop closed, Elias sat at the kitchen table with a pencil and a scrap of paper. Lily slept. Clara knitted quietly nearby, and Elias began sketching the impossible. A curved wrench, slimmer handle, offset grip, angled jaws. Something no mechanic school would have dared teach. Clara watched him for a long moment. "What is that?" "A way out," Elias whispered. "Not just for me, for us." He spent days refining it, nights adjusting it, a lifetime of struggle shaping every line. Then, with money he didn't have, he found a small metal worker on the edge of town, an old man named O'Reilly, who forged horseshoes and farm tools. "I need this made," Elias said, handing him the sketch. O'Reilly studied it, raising an eyebrow. "It's strange. I know. Odd shape. Unbalanced. I know. Might not work. It will." The old man stared at Elias for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Come back in a week." That week felt like a lifetime. Harlan complained more than ever. Marty muttered insults under his breath. Customers noticed tension, and every time Elias loosened a bolt, someone whispered, "He should have opened his own place by now." But Elias waited, patient, quiet, focused. Finally, the week ended. O'Reilly handed him a cloth-wrapped bundle. Elias unwrapped it slowly. There it was. His idea made metal. His struggle made shape. His story made tool. He held it in his hands, heavier than expected, colder than he imagined, but so right, it sent a shiver through him. He went straight to the workshop. A rusted flywheel sat waiting on the bench, one he'd been avoiding because even his method struggled with it. He placed his new wrench around the bolt, shifted, tilted, twisted. The bolt snapped loose in one clean, effortless motion. Marty's jaw dropped. Harlan blinked twice. The other mechanics froze, but Elias didn't smile. He didn't brag. He just whispered, "It works." And in that moment, his future opened. Within months, ranchers, mechanics, and freight workers begged for Turner's wrench. O'Reilly forged them as fast as Elias could design improvements. A small shed behind Elias's house became a testing ground, tools hanging from nails, blueprints pinned to the walls, parts scattered like puzzle pieces. Clara helped with orders. Lily stamped envelopes. Neighbors spread the word. Fielder invested. O'Reilly partnered. And Harlan watched from a distance, confused and angry as his best worker slipped through his fingers. One warm evening, as Elias closed the shop for the last time under Harlan's roof, the older man approached. "So, you're really going?" Harlan said. "I have to," Elias answered peacefully. Harlan nodded slowly, not in approval, but in something close to respect. "Guess you were meant for more than this place." Elias didn't respond. Some endings don't need words. He walked home under a quiet Texas sunset, the same sunset he'd walked beneath on the worst days of his life. But tonight, it felt like an old friend. Ahead of him, Clara stood on the porch holding Lily. Behind her, a sign leaned against the railing, "Turner & Co. Tools. Opening soon." Clara smiled. "Ready?" He stepped toward them, toward the new shop, the new life, the dream that once felt too heavy to carry. "Yeah," Elias said softly. "I'm ready." Years later, people would talk about Elias Turner like a legend, the man who saw angles others missed, the man who designed tools that changed workshops across Texas, the man who turned a single wrench into a family legacy. But Elias always remembered the truth. It didn't start with success. It started with failure, with humiliation, with fear, with a man too tired to quit and a wife too strong to let him. The Turner family never became rich overnight. They became rich because they refused to break. And in the end, as Elias watched his grandchildren running around the porch of the home he built, he whispered the words that had shaped every bolt, every fight, every dawn. The table finally got full, not by luck, but by the hands that never gave up.